Back in February, we told you about Virtuous Con, a brand new virtual sci-fi and comic convention. Well, this weekend, June 19th and 20th, Virtuous Con Juneteenth returns with an even bigger event. And as usual, everything happens live in the virtual space. Browse their virtual show floor and interact with over 50 of their amazing vendors in real time. Special appearances and guests include Star Trek Discovery's Wilson Cruz, award-winning voice artist Phil Lamar, Academy Award-winning director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse Peter Ramsey, New York Times best-selling authors L.L. McKinney and Justina Ireland, a gaming panel full of your Twitch faves, and more. They even have a special masterclass series sponsored by Kickstarter, where you can learn everything from how to crowdfund your comics to how to create an audiobook of your work. And all this is free for attendees. Visit virtuouscon.com to register today. That's virtuouscon.com. And log on June 19th and 20th for the ultimate sci-fi and comic culture convention experience. And did we mention it's run by Black women? Go support Virtuous Con now.
I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat. I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are. With great power comes great responsibility.
I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
Welcome back, internets, to another episode of Views from the 616, the blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your hosts, Tatiana King, aka the Grand Duchess of Tech, also known as the Wicked Witch of the West View, the coldest winter soldier ever, and Tesseract Thompson. And as always, I am joined by my lovely co-host.
It's your boy, DJ BenHaMeen. We back again, a.k.a. We Was Kangs, a.k.a. I can't even remember. Oh, yeah, Basie Basem, because I am Basie Basem right now.
Okay. And we are back. We told you we'd be back this coming Monday, which is today, or whatever day you're listening to this. This is your Monday, because we're here to talk all things Loki. If you are one of the smart ones, and obviously you are since you're listening to us now, you heard us last week. We actually gave you a little kind of preview review of Loki. We gave you some of the themes that we're going to be discussing in this series. We were able to see the first two episodes. Mr. DJ BenHaMeen was able to correct the timeline, and I was able to see those first two episodes. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. And like I said, we were able to speak more so about who we think the real villain of Loki is. So if you missed that, make sure you go back and check that out. But in the meantime, we are here today to talk about episode 1 of Loki on Disney Plus, titled Glorious Purpose. And here's your basic plot. The View's crew is black and back, to discuss the misadventures of our favorite master of mischief, Loki themselves. In the Glorious Purpose episode of the show, we catch up with our second favorite variant of Loki right after their appearance in Endgame. Loki, too, learns all about the TVA, gets caught up in one of the worst ever episodes of This Is Your Life, and joins up with Mobius and Mobius to track down themselves.
Pretty much is what it seems.
It seems that way. Yeah. This episode directed by Kate Herron, written by Michael Wardren. I did want to mention that I saw maybe a week or so ago on Twitter, Michael Wardren, he tweeted, look, and I understand why, like now, especially being with you, BenHaMeen, and learning about Hollywood and writers and how that works. Michael put a disclaimer and said, look, anything, like, I hope y'all enjoy this. We did our best. Anything you don't like, direct all your vitriol to me. They said, don't come at the rest of the cast or the crew or anything like that. He said that. And I understand that now, because what happens when something goes awry or something's not, people don't quite like something that happens on a show, right? Everybody gets the smoke, right? So Michael had at least put it out there already. Like, look, if there's something you don't like, come to me, give me the smoke. So.
Okay, well.
Good leadership, I guess.
Quick shout out to Kate Herron, who does follow the For All Nerds team. And we've been speaking with them about appearing on Views from the 616. And just thank you for following and appreciating us, because that's really awesome. And, we appreciate you. And Loki.
Yes. And also one more shout out. Thank you to my brother, E. Jamal C, for that Tesseract Thompson, a.k.a. I appreciate you. I just wanted to make sure you got your flowers.
There you go.
Okay, now let's get into it. The themes of the episode. Okay, so first off, BenHaMeen, I think this theme, it's actually really funny when they said it, but it's also pretty sad because remember we talked about in our preview review episode, we talked about that main character syndrome that we as humans tend to have sometimes. Like when you're looking good, feeling good, or if you're in a situation where you feel like everybody's looking at you. Look at DJ BenHaMeen with his WAP shirt on. You feel like, oh.
Right now I feel like that.
Life is about me. Everyone's following me. You know, everything is coming down to what the moves that I make. In Loki, Ravonna Renslayer says this perfect quote to Loki, and it's not your story, it never was. Now that is a throat punch if I've ever heard one, because especially for someone like Loki, who is so, at least this version, is so self-centered. He's very high and mighty. He and really this arrogance and the I'm a god. I mean, literally, figuratively, yes, sure, but that his being, his feeling of I'm better than everybody else, for that quote to be said to him, that's devastating, right? And it doesn't hit him as devastating right away, but it ends up being the case. And as I mentioned with Loki's personality, like he would feel that the bureaucracy of the TVA, that's the Time Variance Authority, that's the authority that Ravonna works for, he would think that the TVA is beneath him. But we are quickly learned that the TVA and their purpose are levels above anything that Loki has even been remotely aware of.
Mm-hmm. And back to that point, like you were saying about him getting broken down. I mean, there are several moments in this episode where this man gets broken down, but the whole thing to his core, to the very last compound. Shout out to KRS-One. As you were talking about him, the idea that he holds himself above everyone, it's expressed even in the like minor ways in this episode. When he first shows up in Mongolia and the Mongolians walk upon him, his immediate reaction is to jump on the rock. To stand above them.
To get the high ground.
I have the high ground now, Anakin.
Exactly.
You know, immediately. Like, I cannot be on the same level with y'all, even when I can't even speak the language that y'all speak. You know, like, my ability to use words is useless here because all I speak is English.
But isn't that telling? Like, you're supposedly this god, but you can't even speak that language? Like, shouldn't language not be a barrier to you?
I was kind of thrown off by that. You know, especially that I was like, you know, I would think that this man had spent all these thousands of years learning some other languages, you know, but I mean, Mongolian also ain't one you're going to really pick up. You know, you're like, oh, I'm going to need to use this one day, you know, so I understand that as well. But be that as it may, even
you never
with
know,
like
Marvel God, you never know.
True indeed, as you see. But be that as it may, back to Loki, even with his death, which we see again in this episode, when he's killed by Thanos, his last words to Thanos are, "You will never be a god."
Yes.
Because even to Thanos, he's like, yo, I'm still above you. You can't be what I am from birth. Which kind of goes back to my theory of Loki being black. Because it's like, you know, it's like that idea, you know, like you can't be what I am from birth. You know, you just wish you were me, dog. You know, but you will never be me.
You wish you was us, but you ain't us.
You ain't us, but you hate us because you ain't us.
Everybody wants to be a nigga, but not a nigga.
Nigga. I look, there's a lot of things, and I rewatched the first Thor, and like Loki, you know what I mean? Like, he kills his dad in the in that one because he kills Laufey so that
the frost giant, you mean?
The frost giant, who is his father,
his birth father,
so that he can be reborn as an Asgardian. You know what I mean? He gets rid of the dark blue, and once again,
let's see what bullshit you about to say now. Here we go.
I'm just saying, in all these films, when all the characters are white and the villain, I'm going back to the first Thor, and all the villains, the ice giants, are this dark-hued race.
And they're evil.
And
here we go again with the dark
Asian, and the Asian Warriors 3, my man Hogan the Grim is walking around like, oh, what is going on? Hey, yo, his accent was horrific. But be that as it may, I still feel like Loki is a, bit more the brothers than the rest of the Asgardians, is all I'm going to say. Even Heimdall with his dormant ass.
He suffered oppression even though he lived as a prince, essentially. Oh, his
Facts.
life.
You're right. What am I talking about? This man was living up in the Golden Palace and shit.
Living
life lovely.
Now, his levels of acceptance is something to talk about that we're absolutely going to get into. But yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But no, he's still a clamp it.
More on the path of this theme of it's not your story and never was, Loki. There's several more quotes that I want to share. Ravonna, when they're going back and forth during the trial, Ravonna says to Loki, Loki basically, it's so funny because Loki to me performs as the audience at this point. They're like, well, if Loki gets in trouble, what the fuck did the Avengers do when they went back in time? That wasn't right. I thought y'all pick up everybody who changes time. What Ravonna says to him is what the Avengers did was supposed to happen. You were not supposed to escape.
Who says so? Like, I got major questions at this point. Y'all definitely need to go back and watch our video on YouTube, youtube.com/4allnerdstv on YouTube. Watch the video.
YouTube.com/4allnerdstv. Yes.
Thank you. Where we
yes.
discuss.
Or you could Google 4allnerdstv. Yes.
Yes, where we discuss who is the villain of Loki.
Yes.
And me and Tatiana came to the conclusion that the villain of Loki is most probably the TVA themselves. Mm-hmm. And this is where I'm getting this from because, fam. So y'all like, okay, half of the universe snapped out. That's all part of it because it'll work out. Y'all looking like God and Job over here, where God, erases Job's family is like, oh, that's part of the plan, homie. You got a new family now. It's all good, ain't it?
Not homie.
I mean, that's what God is like.
Naturally.
Look, Job is a rough book and yeah. But yeah, so I don't know about that. What's your next quote? Because that one was sus.
Yeah. So Mobius says you've always lived within your set path, which brings up several questions and conversation to me. Like, first, what does this say about the MCU universe itself? That all actions are already predetermined and fated, and there's no choice?
Yes. What does it say about our universe? That all actions are predetermined and fated, and there is no choice? While there is also choice?
Or are we saying that choice is available, but all paths lead to the same outcome, unless you do something outside of your predetermined outline, which is or timeline, which is what Loki did by stealing the Tesseract.
Everyone is creating their individual fate by the choices they take in the present moment.
So there's choice. So choices is real.
Yes,
but the outcome isn't. Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Here becomes the difference when you are dealing with something that can see time in a way that humanity doesn't at the current moment. When you're dealing with somebody who sees time, like the best way that I've ever heard it described is when people talk about it's most comic books, right? We live in a 3D universe. So someone who looks a 2D universe is a comic book. Me and you can flip forward and backwards through time in a comic book, through someone's story and see their ending. So we can see where their choices lead them and what happened at the beginning of those choices that led to other choices that led to that. We as humanity are existing in this 3D universe and walking through it, going through time, etc., blah, blah, blah. Someone who is from a 4D universe, which the Time Lords are, would look at us like a comic book and be able to flip back and forth through our pages. Thusly, the choices we're making that we think are, individual choices are already laid out because everything happens for a reason. Everything is, part of the plan. It's a paradox at the same time, because of our inability to see time in a different way, it becomes this paradox. Right. Now, whether or not, if we could see time in a different way, would we see that things are fated or not? That's,
right.
That's something we don't know yet.
Well, I gotta say, Ben, this is fucked up. Thusly.
What part of it?
Thusly, to use your wording.
Thusly, yeah.
Because... And again, I understand as a human, I cannot fathom the concept of 4D because I've never lived in 4D. I don't know what 4D is and the concept in the great analogy you provided about how to understand this. The thing is, in my view, in my humanistic view, it's a fucked up role that the timekeepers are doing because to me that means they don't care about what's right or wrong and my version of what right and wrong means. It's about what's orderly according to their chosen or their sacred timeline.
Yes, but it's also might not be orderly. Mobius drops a really big hint in his conversation with Loki when he says it's not about approval or disapproval. It's about, let's get back to this, and he doesn't explain exactly what it's about. Now, like we've seen, the Time Lords are perhaps reptilian beings, which goes into a whole nother thing. There was a great run on Silver Surfer in the 90s where it discussed the differences between reptilian and human, like
what about the reptilian mind that we
and
all
the
still have?
reptilian mind and how, versus the mind, the more evolved mind that has emotions and all these other needs.
Right.
So order and chaos and even good and evil, like we discussed on the show, and what is a villain versus what is a hero are also very arbitrary things.
Yeah. I guess as you say, those concepts go out the window. And it feeds more into exactly what you're saying about people misunderstanding villain for antagonist and the good guy for the protagonist and all this stuff.
Yes, like we think of good because we, like I always say, we look at the Avengers as good. But as I've pointed out on the show, the Avengers are wild, reckless, and have done all hella damage to the world in their short time on it. While someone like Thanos, we look at as evil because he snaps out half of the universe. But he brought order to the universe. He's selling drugs in the community.
He's selling drugs in the community.
But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs in the community.
Well, and like I said, it's still in many ways, either way you look at it, it's still in many ways fucked up, because that also means that everything Loki has done up until that point is still in the Tesseract, including all the people he's killed. Remember they say Black Widow said he killed like 90 people in 3 days or some shit like that. Including all the people he's killed was acceptable to the correct or I don't even know what term to use now, to the sacred flow of the timeline.
Yep.
Because otherwise, and I'm calling them Time 12, but Time 12 would have been on his head long time ago. They would have grabbed him up.
Once again, though, see, like we look at Loki's 90 people in 3 days. It's like, oh my God, but what about all the people Iron Man bombed in the original Iron Man film? Oh, no problem.
I hear you.
What about all the weapons that Tony Stark built
we're
out?
We're not going to do this whataboutism because I'm talking about Loki right now. I'm not talking about Tony Stark right now.
I know, but I'm just saying, but no, I'm just saying in the general idea of like what the timekeepers are worried about. That's what I'm saying. Like when you're looking at it from, once again, from a good versus evil. Like your Loki's kills are like worse than Tony Stark's kills for some reason. But that's not the case.
Oh, I don't think it's worse.
Okay, but that's not to the timekeepers. It's all like
also within context, and our context of what good and evil is apparently not the same context that the timekeepers have.
Well, my context of good and evil are very different, much more akin to what the timekeepers probably have.
Excuse me, are you already aligning yourself with the enemy? I thought they.
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm already saying they're the enemy. But what I'm saying is that when people talk about good and evil, a lot of times I really don't agree with what. Tony Stark is considered good. It's tough for me to, that man got a lot of bodies, he
got bodies.
A lot. Jesus, man. Well, you built bombs, fam.
Right. And I hear you because that's how I felt about him in the beginning. I mean, and again, I have an intimate understanding of Tony because, again, I used to watch the cartoons as a kid, and that man was a drunkard. He was this and that. And even in the MCU, when he was an asshole. Well, first of all, he's always been an asshole, but he was an asshole of epic proportions, and then he just became a lovable asshole. So
that was one of the first comic books I read was Iron Man. He's always been one of my favorite heroes to this day. When he first came out, I was so hyped to see the movie, even though he's one of the lesser known heroes at the time. But same thing, him and Loki, scumbag, like different levels, same scumbag,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one more quote I want to mention. Mm-hmm. This comes from Loki himself or themselves. They write, or they say, for nearly every living thing, choice breeds shame, uncertainty, and regret. My choices are my own.
That one hit me.
Again, right, that hit me. But also, Loki is being contradictory, and he is not telling the truth to himself. So I explain that. Like, first of all, Loki tries to, with this, and again, that this is many different avenues about that this quote is giving. This many different levels about this quote. But on one plane, Loki is trying to separate himself from nearly every living thing, right? He makes it like he has the choices and he's doing things because he is a god. He's above everybody. He has the high ground, all this stuff. But his own choices were born from his own shame, uncertainty, and inadequacy. All of this, and we see that after like he starts seeing those visuals of like his mom dying, all this other stuff.
This is your life.
Yeah, the whole "this is your life" thing. All his actions have generally been to gain love and acceptance of Odin. Like, he's always truly wanted to be Odinson. Loki Odinson. And granted, that's the other Loki that affirms his identity as Odin's son. But at the end of the day, Loki knows that he's different and feels like, and always felt like, before he knew the truth, he always felt like he was been treated differently and felt like he was, as he felt, beneath Thor, because Thor was groomed to take over the throne. And that's why he's always done these things, like say, yo, I'm going to be better and smarter and stronger, and I'm going to be the true king. He feels inadequate. So for him to sit there and say, well, everybody else, y'all don't understand choice because y'all are uncertain about your life. Nigga, so are you. You doing half the things you did unless you understood that. So that's why I say it's a little contradictory.
Okay,
now,
okay. Yep.
Now also his I'm calling it a monologue, but his monologue is also akin to like the quintessential argument that humans have with God, and questioning like why God lets anything or bad things happen to them or not happen to them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all like, this was some of the best, I think one of the illest ways to catch a character up and to also create, and to show how this is still a variant of Loki. Because we talked about this a little, but I didn't want to spoil this in our video about how this now character that we are seeing now, right, is a dude who just came from his big failure in Avengers. Even when he realizes that these niggas is using time travel on his ass, he's like, yo, they using it because of me. They obviously using time travel.
Character syndrome.
Yeah, they obviously are using time travel to stop me from becoming a god, when they were in reality trying to save the universe from Thanos. Like, you are a minor point.
Nobody come to see you, Otis.
Nobody coming to see you,
Otis. Like, we're not even talking about, and that's what I mean. Like, this his quote is so interesting because it's also so self-centered, and it's like, no, my nigga, you're talking about yourself.
Yep.
You're talking about yourself.
But that's what was so ill, because it's such ill character work. And then also for him to catch up on that variant, well, the main one, the main Loki that we know, to catch up on everything, to see where his actions led him, where his eventual actions that he would have done, like, that's so ill, like, to be able to see where your own life, this is where it's going to lead you. Yeah. To get choked out by Thanos.
Yeah. And your choices kills your moms.
Yeah, and your choices kills your moms. Like,
'cause you were so clever, ha ha.
Like, that shit was devastating. This whole episode, and it was like, I don't know if it's like, once you've been through trauma, a lot of TV and entertainment starts, like, because writers and, have usually been through trauma and are usually getting their own trauma out. Because it's like all the stuff with the mom breaks my heart. Even like Loki being put into the TVA reminded me so much of prison and imprisonment, because it was the confusion, the just utter disregard for everything about who you were before the moment.
The disregard for your confusion.
Yes, everything.
You'll figure it out.
That whole shit was so triggering for me, where I'm like, God damn this. But that's when I was like, this is so good, because it felt just like I felt. So I was like, whoa, they got it right.
And you were in a foreign country, so that's similar. Loki's in a foreign space
world,
and time.
but it's the same thing. Like, you chill in 1 second, some people grab you up, and then the next second they're like, strip down. What? Oh, walk through this. What? And then you
saw
see
parallels to your own experience.
Fam, it was great. I mean, not great, but great.
I heard you saying. I know what you mean. It's great in a illustrative type of way.
Yes, where I was like, ooh, I feel this, Like,
illustrative, I guess they pronounce it. But
they got it,
Yeah.
Money, Jordan. Yeah.
Let's go to our next theme, which is Loki's favorite, again, monologue, glorious purpose. And also, I also added on Mobius's line, the king of space. Loki, the king of space.
My man was just like, space.
Because to me, that's like you playing Loki, talking about he has all this glorious purpose. Like, all right, the king of space, relax. But so, like, throughout the MCU, Loki has introduced himself as being burdened by glorious purpose. I think he even said as much. Did he say as much to the Mongolians?
You damn straight.
Yeah,
My man got this
spiel.
line. Yeah.
It's like he's this and there's again, we'll talk also about the background of Loki, but he has this Shakespearean approach to everything. Like, when he greets everyone, like, I have to be above everyone. I have to speak in these very old English terms, but
burdened with glorious purpose.
Burdened because he is the main character. And while it's mainly arrogance, it's also his personal way to define why he lives and moves in the way he does. Like, when you are filled with uncertainty about yourself, you tend to overdo it in other areas. Mm-hmm. Lots of times. And I'm not going to give too many examples of where this personifies itself in real life, but I think everyone listening understands. You know, it's called, what is that called when you're overcompensating for something? Yeah. A lot of overcompensation.
Oof.
In this whole idea of glorious purpose.
I wouldn't know about that one.
Woof. Listen, I'm not even getting to that. Not even getting to that. No. In this understanding of glorious purpose, Mobius says, when they're going back and forth, like they're having a conversation about why Loki's there, what Loki wants. Loki talks about how he wants to be king, and that's when Mobius does the whole Loki, the king of space stuff. But he says, why does someone with so much range just want to rule? And in ways, Mobius is pointing out the absurdity of Loki wanting to be a king when he really has all the necessities to be greater. Like, at the end of the day, like, forget the arrogance and stuff. Loki really is a god. He really is a trickster god. He really has the capabilities. He's gender fluid. Like, he is imbued with so much specialty that to just say, oh, I want to rule over these people is like, that's the extent of your goals. I understand where Mobius was coming from. And it also expresses how Loki is still thinking on it. Again, as you mentioned, how like the 3D beings and 4D beings see each other. Like, Loki is thinking on a lower plane of thought than Mobius and even the TVA. And it's not until he sees that drawer of Infinity Stones later on that it dawns on him, or earlier on, that it dawns on him about what really everything. And I don't want to say he learns the understanding of the universe, but what really things are starting to click into place about what it really all means in my head.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also, this throws into something that I feel like the series is definitely taking from, I just finished reading them, Journey into Mystery by Kieran Gillen, which features the youngest kid Loki, and then Agent of Asgard by Al Ewing, which features teenage Loki, and especially Agent of Asgard, even though both of them are about a Loki trying to escape their past. Like a Loki who is burdened by the stories and the ideas that are known about them. Mm-hmm. And it's a very ill, both of them very ill. Journey into Mystery even asked the question, like, how do we as fans, as an audience, allow a character to grow and change? Especially in comic books where they're always the villain, like Loki's got to be the villain, because if you pick it up at any moment, Thor, Loki, you got to, like, if you're new to it, you got to be able to jump right in. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, characters, for the most part, they don't change that much. And so that's what Journey into Mystery was about. And then Agent of Asgard is even more about, like, a Loki just trying to change and being stopped by everyone around him. Because they're like, nah, you're the god of lies, you're the god of lies, you're the god of lies, you're the god of lies. And to him, he's like, damn, dog, I can't be nothing else. And that's what this series seems to be talking about. Like, everyone's like, no, Loki, you're the villain. That's what you always do. That is your part every time, dog. You make the hero better. You know how it is. Go play your role, know your role, and shut your mouth.
Right.
It's pretty much this whole series so far. And Loki is like, no, that's not all I am. And it's really ill because the Agent of Asgard gets into this whole idea that Loki is more than a god of lies. He's also the god of stories. Because what is a story? A story is a lie. It's a story. It's a tale.
Yeah.
And so with that, he gains the ability to start changing reality by the stories he tells.
Yeah.
And that's something, as we've seen, the reality, the purple energy, so I think that's something we're really going to get into and see as this series progresses.
Right. All of this, everything you're saying reminds me of this book I read, like, I think I was a freshman in high school, and don't even ask me how I found this book or how I got into it. Again, nerd. And I was way in over my head, but it's something I just remembered for years and years. It's called Flatland, A Romance of Many Dimensions. It's by the author Edwin Abbott, and it's a satirical novella. And there's a lot going on in it. It's very math heavy, and it's a dense book, not gonna lie. You might fall asleep reading the first 2 words, but it essentially kind of talks about there's a main story in it that just basically talks about like this one-dimensional character, like learning about the two-dimensional world, and then they learn about the third-dimensional world, and then so on and so on and so forth. And exactly like how you're saying, Ben, like understanding the concepts and realization that there's higher planes in you. And then, like it follows along of a dot that meets a line, and then a line that meets a square, and then a square that meets a hexagon. And it's just like there's more and more levels above you, and there's more there's a greater understanding of the world that, like, if you're not in that station, you may not know it even exists. And it also expresses like people trying to break out of their station. Like, as you said, why do I always have to be the trickster guy? Why do I always have to be the liar? Like, I want to be the hero. I want to be this. I want to be that. So it just reminding me of that. If y'all are interested, go read that book. Again, it's pretty dense. If you're into math, you'll really love it. But otherwise, I warned you. But I just wanted to make that point.
Also, and on that same point about you were talking about breaking out of your world, and shout out to Kate Herron for this. The opening shot of this series was like there's a bubble of water in this desert, and in this bubble of water reflected, you see a little insect walking through it. And then you shot or so later, you see this insect walking up this hill and the great world that we're about to experience in front of it. And so it's like we were all for this whole time in this MCU that we've seen
bubble.
through, of this bubble, and we think it's this massive world, but it's just this small little bubble. And now we're going to get to experience
more little raindrop.
Phase 4 is just this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which still seems hard for me to even be, even the big comic reader. But like I said, it seems like we are heavy towards some Secret Wars stuff coming. So it will get bigger and other.
We've already encountered a living planet. We've already encountered that floating, Titan head or whatever that was.
Celestial head. That's the head. That nowhere is the head of a Celestial.
Yeah.
And we're about to see the Celestials in Eternals.
Right. So my thing is, Marvel has whether you all know it or not, they've started to prep us for this for years.
Yeah. Oh, they've been prepping, because you saw the Celestials were first seen in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. There's that quick shot of them there, and then Nowhere's head, the dead Celestial, and then I think there was another shot of them when Doctor Strange, and then now we're about to get them in their glory, and that even in this episode we see. The animation, when the animation's explaining the whole TVA and everything, there are a hell of a lot of Easter eggs in that animation, such as when there's this battle being shown, you see a bunch of what looks like Kree warriors fighting on one side, and the other side, what appears to be, could be the Nova Corps. In the background, there is a spaceship that is the same ship that is seen on Titan. So this battle is probably taking place on Titan because, what's his name? Ronan the Accuser even said that the Nova Corps and the Kree have been fighting for thousands of years. So there's some people saying that this is that battle that we saw is what led to Thanos and what led to some of the, the ideas that Thanos was expressing, like, his world being in this state where they needed blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Whatever. But there's a lot of little Easter eggs, like I said, the Kree and all that. And then the other real Easter egg while we're on that animation is that they talk about there was a multiversal war back in the past that the Time Lords had to stop, and that's why they made this sacred timeline.
Yes.
So they're already saying that a Secret Wars type event already took place in the past, and what would happen if the Time Lords or something get wrecked.
Ooh.
One last hint on them Time Lords and Easter eggs is in their faces behind Ravonna when she's in the courtroom. One of those faces looks super suspiciously like Kang. Also, in the Time Lords' insignia, their shield in that same room looks like Kang's face. There's an hourglass in it, a sword and a shield, some other things.
Wow.
But when taken at a larger thing, could be Kang's face.
That'd be wild.
Just, a couple hints, maybe, maybe not.
We explained in our preview review episode, the one previous to this, that Kang and Ravonna in the comics have a very, very interesting, long-standing relationship through, I guess, eons at this point. So that would be interesting if that is indeed Kang, as you say.
And, I just know there are some big things coming in this series. I'm not sure what, but I've been told, to look forward to some major things. And even with someone, I'm not sure who, but someone from Marvel said in the press, that what they're working on is cleaning up what happens in Loki. So there are some major things doing,
They have to, because I mean, and I don't know if you mean like clean up literally or clean it up figuratively, because my thing is when you enter in time travel to anything, it's just, again, with humans with our rudimentary understanding of time, like we just fuck it up. You see Terminator, you see everything, even Endgame itself. It's like things that just end up like bending in on themselves and not making sense. And like you said, you gotta clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, in the glorious purpose theme, I just wanted to make this mention of, what does Loki actually want in life? That's something that Mobius keeps questioning him. What is Loki's true purpose? Why are you here? And it's the same question we ask ourselves as human beings. Mm-hmm. What is your purpose? What is the meaning of life? What is my plan? And at least on the most basic of levels, when it comes to Loki, for me, I believe he just wants acceptance. I mentioned before how he truly wants to feel and be accepted as an Odinson. He really wants to be Odin's son. He really wants to feel like he is worthy, if you will, to use that theme that Thor always uses. And again, everything he does is towards this true purpose of his. What do you think his purpose is?
I think that's definitely probably his major purpose. I think that as we even see, like, one of the effed up themes in these movies is what Loki gets told early on is that both of y'all are meant to be king, but only one of you gets to do it, and it's Thor. Like, both of y'all could be king, but Thor is the one, from gate. And so he's always like, damn, why not me? And then he thinks it's because he's ice giant, so that's why he thinks Odin don't F with him. But really, Odin thinks that he's just too manipulative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But is that because Odin is always trying to act kind of funny to him? It's one of those, is the chicken or the
funny
egg
style towards him.
Yeah, so is it the chicken or the egg type of thing? So I think Loki is looking for acceptance. And like we say, in that this is your life moment in this, he sees that even after he leads, his mother to her demise, even after that, his father can say, I love you, my sons, to him. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So what does that do to someone who's like, God damn, that's all I ever wanted. And even after I got my mom murked, I still get it from my dad. My dad is still like, yo, I love you.
And not even him. The other Loki got it. Not him. Not this variant Loki.
But he's still like, yo, that's me. That's what I would have gotten, if I just, my dad, that's what he's understanding in that moment. My dad does love me.
Yeah.
Like,
he wants love and acceptance.
Yeah, because that Loki got his mom murdered. I didn't even do all that. So he's like, yo, my dad must love me right now.
Well, he did. He just did. Did he get to that point? Because that was Dark World. Did this version of Loki in the Disney Plus version get to do that?
No, he never seen that. No, he never.
No, he never saw what happened. But what did he lead them to? I was under the impression that this version of Loki that we're looking at now in Disney Plus was the one who told the elves to go there, but he didn't know what happened afterwards. It wasn't until he saw the movie that he figured out that his mom got killed because of it.
No, because Loki's locked up in Thor: The Dark World, and that's because of his actions in Avengers. Dark World is after Avengers.
Okay, so this version of Loki didn't even get to the point of telling the elves?
Nope. Okay. He don't even know what the fuck that elves is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nope.
Our next theme is the Infinity Stones are paperweights. Now, I told you there was a throat punch in the beginning with Ravonna. This was a gut punch to me personally, and I know it was a gut punch to Loki. You saw his face, mouth drop, eyes big as saucers, because
I've got a whole meme I want to make of this scene.
Yo, so and I was bugged out about this scene because when he ends up in the office of Casey, who's another analyst, and Casey, or he's like an evidence person too. Like he seems to be like he seems to take in and track and analyze all the evidence that gets confiscated from offenders like Loki. And, he gets the Tesseract and like he's trying to figure out where to put it. So he opens his drawer, his desk drawer, and there are literally like 10, 12 Infinity Stones in there, along with like some type of metal, some other random things in there. And I'm sure that there's some Easter eggs in that drawer. But that fact that there were multiple versions of the Time Stone and the Mind Stone and this and that, it's just like, wait a minute. This very stone that was the cause for like all of these, as you said, that little bubble of the MCU we thought was the world. You mean in some ways, and I know not completely, but in some ways they're kind of inconsequential because they just get thrown in a drawer like a pencil. Like, well, it's just nothing.
Yes. Okay. That I think what this episode in a lot of ways showed that was really ill to me. I mean, that was the gut punch. But there's so many subtle gut punches in this episode that if you pay attention, right? The episode opens with some dudes just stepping through a portal through time. It's nothing.
It's nothing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tony Stark spent half a film trying to figure this shit out. These dudes are just whop through it. Slowed Loki down, changed his time up, with the tap of a wand. Completely used, and that's something else. Those wands that they use, like, a lot of things are still in the Marvel Universe are very color-coded to power. So when they tap him, Loki, it's the time that they're hitting him. When they erase the son of the Goldman Sachs,
when they erase the other dude, the other offender, offender.
The son of the Goldman Sachs. He's like, my dad sits on the board of Goldman Sachs.
I don't even remember what man said.
That's what he said, yo. That's what he says. I was crying because I'm like, what? How the fuck did you get here? That was my thought. It's like, how did the son of Goldman Sachs? But anyway, when they hit him when they prune him from reality, it's purple, right? Because it's the reality power. But that says, I have a question, and it's not even a question.
They hit mans with the Disney wand.
Yeah.
It's you watching Disney Channel wand. They hit him with that, and that shit was a wrap for him. Oh shit!
But I have a question and an answer, actually.
Okay.
They are wiping out realities, right?
What I'm saying.
It's not even a question. Like it's the yes. Like,
yes.
Okay,
they are removing whole existences from reality. Yes.
People are talking about, was that kid Loki in the opening church? No, because that kid does not exist anymore. They told her ass to go outside and wait while they erased her from existence.
Okay. Okay.
Am I wrong?
So but here's my
question. The Mongolians are sitting there like,
it's not so much, but my thing is that version of for example, when they hit the time reset, those versions of the Mongolians who saw the information and people they weren't supposed to see got erased. Fine.
Yes.
But the original version of them is still alive.
But the Mongolians who saw Loki was living.
So here's a better question. If you erase them from existence because they were of a different branch, did they ever exist in the first place?
That is a question.
My brother.
When did they start
Koofy
existing?
and laser eyes.
Umar stared at the camera like I got let down.
I'm just saying, really, and that's what we talked about right and wrong and this and that and correct or not. Like, if you technically weren't supposed to exist in the first place and you get reset, i.e. deleted, does it even matter because your original version is still there? Do you matter?
I mean, there's definitely some stuff that we've seen.
And that's what this theme is about. What actually matters? Do the Infinity Stones really matter?
Now, this is the thing. He told Shorty to go outside because he did not want her to see what was coming. You know what I mean?
And that's my other question. Is it because of that, or did she get it? Well, I guess she did have to get erased because she saw shit you weren't supposed to see and had a conversation with Mobius.
It's not like whether you saw or not. The whole world. Remember, this is a whole world of people.
But it's not like you're going to know you're getting erased either.
The Mongolians saw some shit.
Isn't it similar to being Infinity Faded?
They see it coming. The Mongolians were like, yo, what the fuck is that? And then it's over.
No. Wait.
You're
talking about seeing the actual device. But my thing is this similar to being Infinity Faded? With the exception of I almost call him Harry Potter. Oh my God. With the exception of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No, the exception of Spider-Man, like, you don't know it's happening. You're just gone. So how would they even know?
No, because that shit forms out like a pool. Like, it spans from when they drop it, wherever they drop it at. Now, how it expands, it's kind of
but it's not like you're running from it like, oh my God, the tsunami of non-existence is coming. Like, no, like, it just happens.
I mean, but how fast? I don't know,
Shit look fast to me.
I know, but it was quick. It wasn't that fast where the Mongolians wouldn't be like, yo, what the fuck?
Could you imagine people running from a time reset? Like,
that's what I think it's got to be like at some point.
I mean, so you're saying like people are, this is horror show, like they're running from a time reset. They know it's happening. No.
You never seen,
when they click this, they don't know, they're not aware. It just happens. And that's why I'm saying again, like, does it really matter in the grand scheme of time and things? They don't know.
It's not the Tommy Knockers. There's another Stephen King story, and they made it into a show. Not the Tommy Knockers, but it's about these people on a plane, right? Mm-hmm. And something happens to the people on the plane where they get shifted out of time, and they start seeing the things that are traveling behind us in time and eating the rest of existence behind us.
Oh, hell no. See, I don't want to know.
And so they see that shit, so they're running from it. Like their plane is trying to outrun the things that are eating the past. Yeah, it was an ill story.
I don't want to know. Like, and that's my thing. Like, and that it goes back to the whole like understanding the concept of different dimensions and things above you, below you, whatever. Do you really want to know? Because I feel like that shit would be so. What's a higher or larger word than frightening, or stronger word than frightening?
Yeah,
that would
disturbing.
Be even more stronger than disturbing. Like
Cthulhu.
that would.
Whatever that feeling is,
falling out of the sky. Like,
yeah. And whatever that feeling is when you see a giant squid monster that, is like 100, 100 miles huge,
Like, no, there's no way. I wouldn't want to know. So this idea of like, what actually matters was true. This scene.
Fam told Shorty to go outside. Like, he knew what was coming. Like, he knew. He didn't want her to be like, ah!
But we got to move on though, because that scene with the paperweights, it throws a lot of the, and this is pun intended, a lot of the weight and importance of the idea of power out of the window. Because when you're looking at that next to the true power of the TVA, you explain BenHaMeen about, they have all of these Disney powers right in their wands. And like the scene also throws the level of understanding and power of the MCU as we know it out of the window, and gives you clues that there's bigger things out there than Thanos and the stones, like Kang, Galactus, especially if you're a comic book reader or even had a hint of some of this stuff. Like there's I hate to say it, but there's way worse things out there than being Infinity Faded, which is wild on its head when you think about it. Like, are you kidding me? And also just about the stones, just one more thing. Like for me, the stones are the binding agents of Loki's wish to fulfill his purpose to be king of everything, right? Like, and when a realization of the stones come to light that like, this is just an industrial war, like his purpose also breaks into a million pieces.
Yeah. And like I was saying, like the TVA have a mastery of these powers. That doesn't mean that someone with the Infinity Gauntlet still doesn't have a mastery of these powers too, and isn't problematic in their own right. But the also thing that we see in this thing, as Loki's told, your magic does not work here. Now, whether that's just a TVA thing, but we also see the Tesseract itself when B-15 steps out of the elevator holding it, the power in it fades out, right? It dims from light to dark like this one now.
Because it's not, the power is not
does
what
not
it
work
is.
in this universe. And that's just like those stones. And also another key to the stones is that there are more time stones in the drawer than any other stone. Right, because of course TVA would have more at a time because that's what they're
and that's what offenders would be having. Yeah.
Yes, but another key to it is in the comic books there are infinite number of Infinity Stones. There are a set of Infinity Stones for each universe. Right.
So infinite. Okay.
Yeah, but they only work in their own universe because that becomes a problem in Secret Wars when the Avengers and the Illuminati are actually trying to use them for some very nefarious purposes, Tony Stark included. And they go to other universes trying to get them because they F up their own Infinity Stones. And so they go to another universe. And then when they bring them back to their 616, it do not work. So that, I think the TVA just...
just don't work.
I mean, and after thing, they went through some grimy ass shit to get the second set of stones. After doing grimy, and they were coming back to do grimy stuff with the stones, and failed.
But the timekeeper said it was supposed to happen. And that's what I'm saying. What pisses me off? Like, I get it, but it's just like no fucking way, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, we'll see. But like another thing you were talking about, like the whole bigger idea. I still don't know how Marvel is going to top, Thanos and Infinity War and Endgame. I'll be honest, because
seriously,
that was like such an ill story in the comics, and even in how they translated it to TV and to the film. like I love what they're doing and the character work and all the different shit they're doing right now. And I know Secret Wars would be ill with all these different realities fighting, but Iron Man fighting Iron Man or something like that. I
don't think they're gonna be that rudimentary. I
hope
don't.
not. I mean, obviously
in fact,
not.
I know. I can. I'm really hoping. I don't want to be like no, and then like 2 years later, someone says, "Tatiana, remember what you said back in 2021?" Yep. But I just feel like they're smarter than that, and I just think that's just this. It's just too simple.
Yeah, definitely. But we shall see where it goes. But right now, they're on it. Because this Loki so far, yeah.
When it comes to the TVA, to me, when I ask about what really matters, the fact that they live in this space where Mobius explains that like time passes differently there, if time passes at all, like I don't even understand how, like, what's day or night or midday, afternoon, lunch. Like I don't understand how that works there. But because of this special place they're in, like even to me, the concept of life and existence, it seems to bore the TVA, the agents, the hunters, even the judges. Like everything seems fairly inconsequential for like they're dealing with their greater mission of preserving the sacred timeline, and all this other bullshit everyone's doing, like running around, doesn't matter. Like, and to me, it shows in how they casually, as they call them, prune people, i.e. erasing you out of existence and also resetting the timelines, as you said, Ben. I mean, like you told the little girl or the little boy to go out because, hey, I didn't want you to see me about to erase your existence. Like, I mean, Mobius seems to have more of a heart than anything else. And everyone else is just like, all right, you're gone. Just like how, like you said, that other dude that got apprehended that was in front of Loki in line, he was mouthing off and they were like, all right, nigga, we giving you one more chance, zap. Like, he was gone. Like, and they didn't think nothing else of it. It was like, all right, next, we've pruned 2 billion people or whatever is beings. Who cares?
Who cares about your little ass?
Yeah.
You were going to get pruned anyway. They already knew what was going to happen. This just sped up the process. That shit was such a reminder of being locked up because it's the same thing. It's like, oh, we already know where you're going. You going to jail, homie. Like.
Directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah, this is all just a formality at this point.
Wow.
Even to Miss Minutes, when she's like, you're probably saying, what the fuck am I doing here? Like that shit was all so real.
It's very, oh man, what's that? Like when you're thinking like an out of body experience.
Mm-hmm. Cause that's how it felt. Yeah, that was exactly what it was. And it's also like that, you're probably saying, because it's like when they say everybody's first line when they get into jail, it's like, I didn't do it. It's like, nigga, everybody said that here.
But it's so effed up because, like, I didn't, bro. I really didn't. It really isn't mine. I've really never seen that before in my life.
This prison is full of innocent people, dog,
But it is in some ways. It really is.
And it's just like, you're probably saying, I don't need to be here.
It's funny, but it's not, right? Like, when you put it like that, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's also like when it's true, it's like, I'm really innocent. And they're like, all right, tell that to the other 200 people in the brig. Like, okay. How do you plead your case?
Been there, done it. Oh, yeah. All right.
As we round out the themes, we got to mention, you said this word earlier, Ben. I mean, paradoxes. Paradox is a big theme. And just to give you a definition, a paradox is a seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement or proposition that when investigated or explained may prove to be well-founded or true. Mm-hmm. Paradox that particularly Loki sees a lot of these when he sees his own death. I feel like they've explained, like in some time travel type story, they like if you see your own death, something bad happens, like you yourself. They say something about it, like you're not supposed to see your own death. You're not supposed to see your double, or if you do see a double, that double's gonna kill you. Like all sorts of wild shit.
There's the idea you'll explode if you touch your double.
Yeah.
But I don't know where that one ever came from.
But these ideas are rampant, right? The existence, and you explained it like because there are multiple universes, there are multiple Infinity Stones, but even the existence of multiple Infinity Stones is weird to me, and it's also a paradox to me because it's just like, what do they say? If you use a stone, it returns back to its source or something like that.
No, what she originally, what the Ancient One originally says is that the stones were born at the beginning of the universe. Mm-hmm. And so they are, for that universe, for the 616 universe, they are part of that sacred timeline. They even talk about it like Tony, I mean...
Wait, are you saying all timelines matter?
I'm saying...
You said their sacred timeline, meaning you're trying to say all the timelines are sacred.
Well,
so
no, I'm saying that is
timeline?
I'm saying the 616 is the timeline, is the
Yeah.
sacred timeline. There is
Yeah.
only one sacred timeline, right?
Oh, so all timelines do not matter.
No, there's only one. All timelines used to matter until the Time Lord came along. And the Time Lords were like, nah, all timelines don't matter, dog. This one does. The rest of y'all is irrelevant. But remember, just like the Time Lords, Steve snipped off some branches, as he said. And he said it. I got to go snip off some branches.
He did say that. Oh, shit, he did. He used that terminology.
Yes. So, Steve was wiping out by the billions same way. Like, nope, got to keep this timeline pure. You know what I mean? Pure, yeah.
The
paradox.
paradox.
That sounds like.
Oh gosh. Please don't stop. You're cracking my brain. So, also, what I found was a paradox is like multiple versions of yourself. I mentioned like seeing your doppelganger, shit like that. Like you said, if you touch something, you explode, shit like that. Like multiple versions of yourself that ultimately all have the same purpose, regardless of how you look or you appear to others. Loki himself is a paradox, like being the trickster god. I mentioned how he can present himself in trillions of different ways, depending on what timeline he is in. There's another thing I don't want to give away because that's actually episode 2, but just have that understanding that there's multiple versions of everybody, right? This is what they're saying in this Loki series.
Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, that is part of episode 2, but like going back to the comics, like I said, there are, for people who've read the comics already, this is all old hat. Loki is represented as male, as female, as a wolfman type creature at one point, as a kid
Loki.
As the story of Kid Loki is so much darker than I realized when I was reading Young Avengers, dog. Like, I read Young Avengers and I was like, oh, this cute little Kid Loki. And then I'm like, let me go read Journey into Mystery because that comes before Young Avengers. And, oh, they'll give me some good backstory on Kid Loki. And then it's like, this is the darkest thing you've ever read. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And finally, the last paradox, and maybe this is more a contradiction. I don't know if it falls under either of these two definitions, but I feel like the TVA itself, like at least how it is presented on the show. The TVA is very retro, kind of 60s, 70s vibe when you talk about the decor, the styling of the like architecture, the spaces themselves, the monitors, the machinery, even the way the analysts are dressed, even the food and drinks that they consume is very like, at least from, if you're talking about from a 2020s perspective, it's very back in the day, old school. But the technology they use is kind of incomprehensibly further along than anything we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. But that's also one thing, like, what's the name, drinking the Josta or Yosta?
The Jost. Yeah, I looked that up. That's a real drink from like 95.
No, I remember Jost.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it was, it contains guarana. It was when
It's like an energy drink?
Yes. It was made by
it was
Pepsi.
like before Red Bull? Or was Red Bull out that?
I think Red Bull was out. It was like one of the Red Bull biters, I would say, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was like that guarana, something, it's some natural ingredient, and it was just like the craze around then, it was like that shit was in everything, everybody's like, oh, this is the natural stuff that gives you energy or whatever. But anyway, and not only does it show that, Mobius is out of time, it's more that the time, people, the TVA can just go and grab one of them whenever they need to. He can just hop into any 1995 or maybe he got there's only one timeline, but, he can go back to 95 and grab it whenever.
I just didn't even think about that. Like, the food that they can eat, they can technically, I mean, they could just willy-nilly just go in any time period. And I thought there was, like, rules around that. Like, it's not like, I feel like visiting 95 today, I'm going to go do this.
Grabbing a Josta, like, fuck up the whole timeline?
Right, that's what I'm saying. I thought, like, they just had these things that people liked in their cafeteria or wherever the fuck, and even like the way, and again, just the way that they dress and present themselves is just, it's strange in, again, my humanistic concept of time, because I'm like, why does everything look 60s, 70s, but then like y'all are like erasing people from time with batons? Like, I don't.
One of the bad stories of the whole decor and especially the stuff that they're using, but the decor is one, it's inspired. The writer of the show is a huge fan of the Mad Men, and so that is one of the nods to Mad Men. But also the equipment they're using is from Kate, who said that she once worked in an office where they use nothing but outdated ass equipment in there. And so she wanted to give the TVA that same idea of this bureaucratic
outdated
bureaucracy,
with middle management and shit.
With middle management, all these layers
it.
upon layers upon layers, and they're using this ancient-looking technology, film strips, everything to, do the flow of fucking time,
Right.
like, yeah.
And that's interesting because, oh no, I can't talk about that either. Never mind. That's in episode 2. Anyway, moving on. The last theme is everyone's gonna roll their eyes. Mephisto and Nightmare. BenHaMeen, you mentioned this.
I'm rolling my eyes.
I know. You mentioned this a little bit in our preview review, but can you just mention it again because this is related to episode 1?
Yes, the devil in the stained glass window. Is it Mephisto? Doubtful. Actually, Kate has denied that Mephisto will be in this series all off the bat. So probably not. Was the boy that Mobius encountered actually Kid Loki? No. I thought it was a little girl, 1, but 2, like I said, they were erased from existence. And Kid
the little
Loki,
child.
Yeah, the little child. Kid Loki would not just get erased from existence like that. They play a much bigger role in the story.
Now, what about
Loki.
the offhanded comment that Mobius made when Loki, as they were walking along, Loki was like, this looks like a nightmare, whatever he said. And Mobius like, oh, actually, that's actual department.
Yes, and I'll help you burn that down. Whether that relates to Nightmare themselves, I don't know. But back to that scene with the kid and the blueberry candy, the little figure on it does look like Nightmare. That... I hate it. I don't, but it does, But why would the variant the variant is the one who killed those people in the church and was doing that attack. Why would they have a nightmare generated candy? No logical reason that the writer and me can come up with. So I'm ruling it out. Let's move on. Yeah, I doubt it. I just seriously doubt Nightmare. My money is on Kang. If anything, if any surprise bid villain, it's Kang. Nightmare now.
Okay. All right. We're done with the themes of the episode. Now we're just going to move on to some information about our characters. Of course, we have to start with Loki. And how you pronounce this?
Lofson.
Is it Lofson? Because Ravana pronounces it differently. Lofson.
Well, it's Laufey is his father, and so it's Odin's son, Thor Odin's son, because he's Odin's son, Laufey's son. So he's
Laufey's son. So okay. I felt like she just put it all together, like
Laufey's son. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So played by the heroic Tom Hiddleston, and you have some information about the origin of the name of Loki because it has lots of it has Norse backgrounds, but it's also some more stuff mixed in there.
Mm-hmm. Some say it has German roots, Scandinavian, all kind of stuff. But what's ill about it is Finnish, all these Swedish different words like luku, luki, lucky in Finnish. But all of these words have the German root luck. That means things to do with hooks and knots and everything. So it's that Loki is always, from his origins of his name, from the beginning, stories that were told about him. It's always been about someone who, guile, tricksters, getting things in the knots. And it's also about Loki, is how he's knotted into his own story and trapped in this web that he has created, or that the stories being told about him have imagined him and created him into this knot and this lock.
Got it.
Also, Mobius loops, infinite knots,
I was just going to say that, this ties, again, a pun, but this ties perfectly into the idea of this show. Just time is an infinite loop. Time, is full of knots and turns. And also the idea, similar to the Mobius strip, that if you start in one place, you may go a long distance, but you still end up back where you started. Mm-hmm. And it's all really just one line when you untangle it.
Yep.
Interesting. What else is Loki? Loki himself, as you said, he's tangled up in a web of his own making.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was saying about before, is that this series seems to be taken from Agents of Asgard and Journey into Mystery, where it's Loki is trying to escape the past, what people know about him, his future even, the variant Loki or the main Loki that we saw before, what that Loki has done, what people always know every variant of Loki to ever do. That's how these TVA people look at him, as just like, that's why B-15 don't give an F about him, because she's like, I've seen you a million times before. You always trash. You know what I mean? So this Loki is trying to escape the weight of all that and all these stories and all these ideas. And that even talks about something that we talked about on the show with WandaVision and stuff, like my problems with the Scarlet Witch and how they portrayed her now, at least in the series, and how people look at her, how they're like when I go on Twitter, if you go under Wanda's trending topics, it's a million people like, oh my God, I love her, she's my God. You know, and it's like, yo, like, this woman's a monster. But because of how we've been trained, how the stories have been told about her, we look at her as a hero no matter what her actions are, you know, and want her to be redeemed.
Yeah.
Loki seems to be in that same place in the MCU, but that's an interesting change, because in the comics before the MCU, he was always villain. You know, there was no middle Loki. It was just like Loki was bad, and he was super bad.
Yeah.
And so that's even why they went into the whole kid Loki and him being reborn and all this stuff, because it was like he was reborn and he was trying to escape what that old Loki had done throughout the history of comics. But that came when the MCU came in and people fell in love with Tom Hiddleston and them abs that they conveniently showed y'all. You know,
I don't remember. See, for me, I don't recall Loki showing off his body like Thor be doing.
Oh no, go back to them.
I don't remember. I'm not saying he didn't.
Yeah, Tom. they have not playing around with Tom since the gate. Tom has been, even before Chris Hemsworth was a sex symbol. Tom was the one.
Well, I love Loki. Like, it's my baby, and I call him my Disney prince. Like, I get it. I get it. So yes,
I remember on Tumblr when it was like when Loki ruled Tumblr. It was disturbing. Like, disturbing, like we said before. It was Cthulhu.
Super disturbing. Yeah. Let's mention the next character, Hunter B-15, who's played by the incredible Wunmi Mosaku. Y'all may know her from Lovecraft Country, amongst other things. You know that we cover that on our Lovecraft Country podcast.
The Safe Negro Pod.
There you go. She plays a hunter at the TVA, and the hunters are basically the cops of the TVA. The TVA itself is not the cops, but they are considered the long arm of the law. They're the ones that actually go out and apprehend the time fugitives or offenders or whatever you want to call them. She doesn't fuck with nor trust Loki.
Nope.
And with the whole group of hunters, they use a set of weaponry and tools to help on their mission. So they have what BenHaMeen mentioned earlier about the time baton, where what we've seen so far is it can be used to completely dissolve a person from reality or slow them down to 1/16th speed, as you saw when she poked Loki with the stick and Loki just went into super slow-mo. There's probably other uses as well. And as Ben said, notice that the colors on the tip of the baton changes depending on the use. We've only seen 2 generally thus far. I'm sure we'll see more. There's also what's called, and at least in the comics, called a time twister, or what I'm calling the time displacement collar.
It's called Time Twister here in the show. The Time Twisters in the comics are actually the evil versions of the Time Lords. Or we're created by the Time Lords at first before they created the TVA. That's it. Sorry. They were created by the Time Lords before they created the TVA to guard the timeline, but them niggas was evil. And it didn't work out, so... Okay.
Well, that escalated quickly. Yeah. So those time twisters, so there's an actual group called the Time Twisters, and you're talking about from the comics, okay.
Yeah, they didn't work out, yeah.
Well, these time twister collars, time displacement collars, when it used with the remote, as you saw, Loki had that around his neck for the majority of the time he was there, it can grab that person, the person that's wearing it. When you hit the certain control and remote, it grabs them from the present moment and puts them back to where they were moments prior. It can place people in time loops, obviously. Somehow it helps Loki jump between areas in the TVA.
It wasn't somehow. It's moving you along your timeline.
So forward or back?
So he went back along his timeline to where he was
he wasn't really escaping when he was running from the cops. The time 12, he was just moving himself
to another place so he could do what he wanted to do. Yeah.
That was going to happen anyway.
No, he was moving himself back along his timeline. So remember, it's a personal move along your timeline. So the rest of the time is still moving at a forward pace. So you're just moving in space and location at the same time, because you were like, if I was in this other room earlier, I'd be in that other room when I went, zoop, you know? So that's what it is. Yeah, he's moving along his own time.
So he was in all them random places? I didn't remember him walking through. Well, then again, they're not going to show every place he was in.
No, they're not going to show him walking through every hallway and shit, but yeah, you know.
Right.
And, I mean, also, you know, look, TV.
There's also the concept of a reset charge. You saw those little devices that they use, as BenHaMeen said, to cast fire and fury over those versions of those people. But it's used after a Nexus event. A Nexus event is considered a departure from the sacred timeline, and as dictated by the timekeepers. You call them Time Lords, but it's dictated by the timekeepers. And the whole purpose of these reset charts is to eliminate these branches, eliminate these temporal branches, and essentially remove things that don't belong. Erasure. Also, we have those time gates, or those doors, those mini iPads you saw, where Time 12 uses it to move through time periods and get these apprehended offenders, and bring them back to the TVA.
And once again, everything is color coded. The doors are yellow for traveling through time. The time, what are they called? The reset charges. When they put them on the ground, are yellow with time, and then flooded to purple as they're changing the reality or wiping the reality out.
You're so right. And again, love the intentionality of directing and photography and things like that.
Yeah, man.
It matters.
It matters. And even like with Loki grabbing you see him take it out of Owen Wilson's pocket if you pay close attention.
You do?
Yes.
When he took the remote?
Owen Wilson picks him up with his right hand, and Loki reaches into his pocket with his left. The camera flips around to a forward-facing shot of both of them. You see his hand in Owen's pocket. You see Owen even kind of shave. He pulls it back, and then Shorty walks all the way in, and you see Loki put the thing into his pocket.
I didn't even see. That's how good Loki is. I didn't even notice.
Yep, it's well done. I didn't notice until someone pointed out in the video, and then and it's like one of those things. Once you've seen it, it's like so obvious, you know?
Yeah. But that's what magic is, right? It's like when you understand sleight of hand and how to basically play with the way your brain actually works, play that against you. Then when you realize how the trick works, you're like, I'm an idiot.
Walk in the door. That's the thing. We're all distracted by Woomy, just like they're distracted. True. So we're looking at Woomy. We're like, oh, who's in the door? You're not looking down at the bottom of the screen to see Loki's hand reach into his pocket.
Wow.
Excellent. Shit. Kate.
We have excellent. We have Ravonna Renslayer. Ravonna. Please don't correct me, y'all. I'm gonna pronounce her name the way I'm gonna pronounce it.
Always went with Ravonna. Yeah, from a kid, I always said Ravonna.
Played by Google Mbatha Raw, amazing actor as well. She plays a judge at the TVA, and I've mentioned before that her character seems to have changed dramatically from the comics, at least what we know of the comics, where in my view, she's a repeat offender of timeline disruptions and would be the very person that would get yoked up by the TVA. Yeah. But the comic book version has a very contentious on-again, off-again romantic relationship with King the Conqueror. And if you listen to our preview review episode, you'll give you more of that.
Yep.
Then also there is Mobius and Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, the wedding crasher himself. He is, I believe, he's senior analyst at the TVA. Like, he's not even like a manager at this point, or is he middle management? Or like, even in the comic books, it doesn't, like, you would think the way he behaves that he's like some top guy, but he's like in middle management.
Yeah. He's like, I would say more of a investigator. I think he's above like he's above the Minutemen, which is B-15 and the rest of her crew.
The Hunters.
Yeah. So I would say he's like middle management. Yeah.
Okay. He has a close relationship with Ravonna, as he said, they're in his, as we see the type of conversations that they have, they just seem to be closer than like just regular colleagues. Like, you know, they seem to be like, you know, you have your friends at work. Like if you have a corporate job, for example, there are a few people that you actually would have conversations with versus people who you're just corporate with and leave. He seems to have a better relationship than that with Ravonna. He's seemingly going to, in my head, the way he's moving, he's seemingly going to be kind of a mentor to Loki a little bit. And in the comics, he's actually based on a real life person named Mark Gruenwald, who was the executive editor of Marvel in the 80s.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Oh man, just Mark Gruenwald was like just someone I grew up on as a writer, as a creator. Mark Gruenwald wrote Captain America for a very long time when I was a kid. Did some of that's what got me into it. Captain America was his run, and did the series Squadron Supreme, which is just, look it up, y'all. It's a 12-issue limited series. You can find it, I'm sure, in mad different places. And it's just one of the illest 12-issue limited series ever. Like, people talk about Watchmen, people talk about The Dark Knight. It's these seminal 80s comic books that changed everything. And Squadron Supreme should be mentioned at least in the same conversation with any of those. It is just a incredible 12-issue series. And he was known at Marvel, especially, as the gatekeeper of continuity. Like, Mark was about knowing how this all, and he would know it in his head. Like, they talk about Al Ewing, the dude who does Immortal Hulk now. They say he's like that. He's like the new Mark Gruenwald, where like you can just go to Al and be like, yo, what happened in this issue in 1985, of Hulk? And they'll be like, oh, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Really?
And
okay.
yeah, and that's how Mark was, where Mark just knew. And so if they knew how to keep everything order, like, okay, who was wearing this costume? All right, wait, just the littlest detail to the biggest detail. Mark just had it.
Well, that makes sense then why back in 2006, he was officially named by Marvel as the patron saint of Marveldom.
Yes.
And for Mobius and Mobius within the comics and obviously in the show to be based off of him makes a lot of sense. And based on what you just said about like really kind of the arbiter of like all things Marvel and the way things are supposed to be, it makes me think, is this Mobius character going to end up like an Agent Coulson character? Like a beloved leader, father figure, mentor type character that gets killed off and everyone's sad about it, but it pushes the story along?
That would hurt. Yeah. And also in the comics, it was like, the whole TVA was all Mark Gruenwald. They were just all, clones of him. Yeah, they were just like, it was just like all Mark Grunwalds. So, yeah, you hurt me right there, dog.
I mean, let's be real.
This shit hurt me. I didn't need to see Coulson get murked again, dog. You know what I mean? Like, I did not need to see that.
Over and over and over. Okay.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, let's hurt you again, Like, I didn't need to see, moms get murdered. I didn't need to see, wait, that's Freya, right? Yeah, Freya, not Frigga. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't need to see Freya get murdered. Oh, man.
You mean Loki's, Thor's mom?
Yes.
It's Frigga.
Frigga, okay. I had it right the first time. Yeah, Frigga, yep.
Yeah. Rounding out the character list, we have, I just want to mention him, Casey, played by Eugene Cordero. Casey's hilarious. And at
Shout
this
out
point,
to The Good Place.
Yeah, at this point, he's being played with comedic effect in every scene that he's in. He seems to be, again, an analyst / evidence person there, and he just keeps popping up. But again, to hilarity. And then there's also Miss Minutes. You mentioned that animated clock that essentially communicates TVA propaganda. She is voiced by, or whatever this clock is voiced by Tara Strong, who is a voice acting god. If you don't know who Tara Strong is, just do yourself a favor and Google Tara Strong, because I'm 100,000% positive that if you've ever watched the cartoon in like the last 15, 20 years, you probably heard her voice.
Several times,
probably in the same episode with several different characters. I'm not going to go down her entire resume, but all I got to say is Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
So.
Beast mode.
And also, finally, go ahead.
Yeah, quick prediction about Miss Minutes.
Yeah.
I see her going buck before this series ends. Like,
full on,
full on rage and anger from that voice coming. And I also...
Because it's too nice. It's too nice of a voice.
Yeah, and I also just see the TVA, that whole... Like, when Loki's seeing the grandeur of the place, right? And it just seems to go on for infinity. There is a shot of the timekeepers holding up the timeline, like a representation of the timeline. I see destruction. I don't know if that's just my general thing, but whenever you see like these grand things, my immediate thought is like, this don't get blown up, like at some point. This
it's
whole
too
thing,
immaculate. Let's F it
up. I'm just like, this thing gonna get. But I don't know, because there's so many other layers to the... I can't see the TVA getting blown up, but something is going to go wrong with everything by the end of this series. Like, this whole sacred timeline is not going to be in effect.
It's too perfect, right?
They've already talked about the madness of the multiverse. They were like, the multiverse was madness. They said that in that video.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They did.
And we're leading
we know
to madness.
Doctor Strange coming.
Yep. So
it can't be perfect. So it is what it is.
The sacred timeline's out of here.
And rounding out our review, we have our Easter eggs inspirations. The intro, BenHaMeen, you said it's reminiscent of something.
Yes, it's reminiscent of Iron Man from the first Iron Man film, his scene in the desert when he escapes from his captors in his new suit of armor and then immediately crashes after he gets far enough away from them. And he's laid out in the desert, armor busts up around him. Yeah. He's like, and it's like, that's the new moment of his new life. Just like Loki crashing into the desert here in the new moment of his new life.
So wait, are these Disney Plus shows giving you Iron Man teas in every opening shot? Like, remember we said
Iron
about
Man and Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier when he was, and I still think that's bullshit. But
no, man, he was
so.
ironing.
He was ironing. It was a man
Man
ironing his shirt, so that was a call to Iron Man. I'm like, oh god. I don't remember if WandaVision had anything pertaining to Iron Man in their first episode.
Yeah, I wonder. But that would be ill, right? Because it's like these are the first, shows, and it's the first one of each one. And if they all pay tribute to Iron Man, that'd be dope. That'd be really dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Tony.
Yeah.
You monster.
Also, rest in peace to this god of Marvel. You say, Ben, that he is in the mural in that judgment hall that Loki is in when he's speaking to Ravonna. I thought he could have been. Like, I saw a lot of different faces and I was staring really hard, but I wasn't 100%.
I was pretty 100%. He's the only one with a mustache in the mural. The glasses seem to be, it looks like the 70s version of Stan Lee, which would fit in with all what we've seen. And also Marvel has said that they are going to use him in different ways because I'm sure they still have a lot of footage of him and stuff, but they want to be sparing with that now that he's passed. And like in the Venom trailer for Venom 2, when Venom is walking into the store, one of his tentacles reaches out and writes a magazine that has Stan Lee's face on it. Like he pushes it back where it's, set up right.
That.
It hurt me. I saw this all these are things I've seen on video watching about Loki, and that hurt me when I saw that. I was like, oh.
So we're going to see more of those, like...
Stan!
I know. It's sad. But his legacy and memory will always live on, as we know, and we know the MCU will never stop, just like time.
Yeah.
What I love like linguistics and terminology and things like that. And I noticed that all the vocabulary used by people in the TVA is all related to gardening. They talk about hedging and pruning and trimming and cleaning and branches and this and that. And again, that's something that you definitely should pay attention to, how people say something in the words that they use.
Yes.
Because like it matters. And again, this whole motif that they're giving off at the TVA.
Yeah, and also all the posters in the background of the TVA are hilarious. The
propaganda posters. Yeah.
Yeah, the Miss
what does it say? The
Minutes
clean your desk. A cleanly desk is a sacred desk or something like that.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, this one, because like, they're basically saying keep all, don't let all these stuff, don't let your stuff be all branched out and messed up. Clean your shit.
No, the one that killed me is when they're standing in line and it's like, I think stay in line or something like that, or you'll get your clock cleaned.
Yes.
And it's Miss Minutes standing on somebody's neck.
So that's another reason why you think she's going to go buck wild.
Yeah, when she said clock cleaned, I was like, all right. And then there was another one about pruning branches and, the time varying authority. What is it? Always. Something always.
Ravonna and Mobius say it to themselves.
What do they say?
They say something like that, right? Like about time, always, or something like that.
It's on the poster. It's like their phrase of the
it's on
authority.
The poster,
yeah, it's something always. The TVA always, something like that. For all time and always. Always. Yes, for all time, always. Right. There we go. Thank you.
We're summarizing y'all, paraphrasing y'all, like
yeah,
it may
but
not
it's
be
for
precise.
All time, always. Yeah.
We mentioned this many times, the idea of a Mobius strip. If with Mobius and Mobius, his name itself is a palindrome and a Mobius strip, same thing forward and backwards. A Mobius strip there's a really cool YouTube video that I will put in the Twitch comments right now. And this video gives you a visual representation of what a Mobius strip is and a really easy way to understand how it works. But it's essentially just like a strip of paper that you twist one end, like a half twist, and you tape it back together. And it has special properties. Like it only has one side. Like if you cut it down the middle, it will continue to only have one side, but be twice as long. Like it's really cool things that you don't think would matter with a piece of paper, but it does. And again, it leads back to that understanding of like really these things that seem to be like inconsequential to the TVA that are like has huge impact to people like us who are just living in our 3D world.
And also the Mobius strip was seen in Endgame when Tony Stark figured out time travel. It was because he put his thing into the form of a Mobius strip.
He put his what into the form of a Mobius strip? Don't say his thing.
Facts, you're right.
His what?
Hey.
I'm sorry, I'm childish.
I
but
mean,
what?
my man might be gifted in more ways than one.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
But anyway, he put the formula, I guess, I'm not sure, the construct, the 3D construct of his time machine into the form of a Mobius strip.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
And that's when it all clicked and worked.
Okay.
Yep.
Finally, in the Easter eggs, we have the note, the mention of DB Cooper.
Oh, yes. Which is really ill, right? DB Cooper is one of the great mysteries of American history and also the only unsolved air hijacking case ever. And DB Cooper was this dude who's actually his name that he used was Dan Cooper, but because of a misreport on a news media, he became known as DB Cooper. So DB Cooper was a hijacker who gets on this plane, like we saw, business suit, ordered a bourbon and scotch, and sits down, gets on the flight, chilling, tells the stewardess comes over, hands her a note. She ignored the note in real life, too, because she thought, dude's just hitting on me. And he was like, hey, you might want to read that. I got a bomb. In real life, she asked to see the bomb. He showed her his briefcase. He had some type of cylinders in there, all that. Convinced her it was a bomb. The pilot takes the plane. They landed somewhere else. He lets everyone off except for the pilot, a stewardess, and I guess co-pilot, maybe a couple other people. He takes parachutes and $200,000 in cash. They fly back up. My man jumps from the back and is never seen again.
And got away with it. So,
most people say he might have died, because it was a very dangerous jump and all that, but no body, etc. So who knows? Now, what's ill about the scene is Loki is doing DB Cooper, and it's also a big tribute because Mad Men once again comes up, right?
Right.
Because there was a theory on Mad Men that the main character, Dan Draper, the end of the show was going to end with him hijacking a plane and being DB Cooper. Like that was going to be the end, him jumping out of this plane and vanishing. It never turned out, but that was like, there were hints to it throughout the series. And because the writer of this show is such a fan of Mad Men, he wanted to give tribute to it. And there you go. And it's also just fucking ill. I hope they do more of that, like where Loki is just turning up in mad mysteries throughout time. Like that would be ill.
I think this show is shaping up to be that way. And also just this last point, similarly to Falcon and Winter Soldier, when you look at the credits, there's tons of clues. Some of it is just window dressing, but there's also some clues in there. I spotted what I believe to be the Granger equation. Look that up. It's called the Granger causality test. Basically, it's a statistical test that is used to determine whether one time series is useful in forecasting another, and it's basically used to measure the ability to predict the future, using a certain time series that to predict another time series yet to come. It fits in with the motif of the TVA and time and Loki and all this stuff, so I'm gonna say that was that. And then there's you see these really cool, whether propaganda or what's that game? Portal. Like those portal type of signs that show up in the credits where like you see people or you see the person walking through a doorway and then you notice that like half their body is like dissolving out of time. So maybe that's a clue that there's danger in going through time doorways. Like maybe you could potentially prune yourself or half yourself or whatever that means. So I would just say pay attention to stuff like that.
Yes, pay attention to everything. A lot of numbers in this episode. I didn't really think that anything related to any issues of comic books or whatnot, and I never really am that dude who, does
be
all
here
that
all day.
Yeah, and like I say,
because I was that dude pausing every other frame in the credits.
I didn't waste time like that. The one thing that I did see though, and it's been pointed out, is that when people are looking at their stands of Loki, like I think we were talking about this off air. It's Earth. It seems to be that they're designating Loki as Earth 616, right? Now, even when we started calling our show Views from the 616, certain people were quick to remind us.
Certain people.
That the MCU is actually known as Earth 199999. I think I got that right. But that was only from this one comic book, the Marvel universe, which is like basically, breaks down everything in the Marvel universe. And so they were saying that while the Marvel comic book universe is 616, the MCU is 19 whatever. So it seems that this is being ignored, right?
Because it was never that comic book that you're talking about said that. But let's be real, the mass people on Earth don't know that. Like, no one says, "Oh, the MCU." Like you walk down the street, you say, "Hey, which MCU version is this?" No one's gonna say 1999. Like, no one's even say any number. That's what I mean. Like, at least I don't recall a character ever saying that in any film that is a specific number.
Now, Mysterio, when he was in the joint, did say, I thought he said he was from Earth 616. If I was wrong, I can't remember.
Did he?
Yeah, he definitely
that
mentioned 616.
So
He's also a liar though, and wasn't from anything but this Earth, which is 616. Now it seems
well, yes. If this is going to be true, then it would be cool that they are now like officially in MCU canon saying that.
Is that our influence?
Maybe.
I'm
knows?
gonna say it is.
I'm sure if it is, the TVA will come and reset that timeline because the blacks can't be doing that. But anyway, folks, thank you so much again for listening to Views from the 616. We hope you had a good time as we did. If you enjoyed what you heard and you want to hear more, please make sure you're doing a few things for us. Make sure you are subscribed to For All Nerds on your favorite podcast platform. We're on everything. Everything you listen to podcasts on, we're on there. Make sure that you are also following us on Twitch so you can watch us live. You should be watching us right now. Twitch.tv/forallnerds. We love you in the comments. What up to our Twitch fam? BenHaMeen is holding the Tesseract, but previously in a moment ago in his timeline, he was holding up a beautiful Views from 616 face mask. That's trying to tell you that you can get the Views from 616 logo as well as a variety of fire original designs from For All Nerds on our TeePublic page, tpublic.com/stores with an S /For All Nerds. You can go there and get yourself t-shirts, book covers or books, notebooks, phone covers, everything you could think of, all types of merch with all types of design choices. BenHaMeen's looking for one now, but you can get all of this on our, not that one, because that's special, but Views from this.
You could have got this if you
could
were
have got
quick.
that one if you were quick about it. And that's the other thing. Sometimes we put up, and for every show we've been putting up special designs, and sometimes the DMCA takes it down or other people take it down. So if you see us put up a cool design you want it, just get it right away. And also make sure if you can that you are supporting us on our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds. No matter what tier you're on, you get special privileges for every show that we do. You get special just
reviews.
Reviews. We have our Invincible reviews that only live there. We have our reviews of the Bad Batch that only live there. If you also are a big Disney Plus fan, and everything that I've mentioned when it came to supporting us on our Twitch, supporting us by following us and sharing our content, and also obviously being on our Patreon and our TeePublic. All of this goes back to support this show. It pays all the people who help us to run the show. It helps us give you the best in quality and content. And it gives us more opportunities to give you even more in the content that you love. And make sure you're following us. I'm at Tatiana King.
I'm at DJ BenHaMeen.
And did I miss anything else?
No, make sure you're following us at Views from the 616 on Twitter. Make sure you're following us on twitch.tv/forallnerds where you can catch the Views live show every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's every Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. You'll probably get some DJ sets before and after. all kind of other stuff. I was on Twitch last night doing my first gaming. I've not been gaming on there in a while.
Too.
Yes, I was rocking Titanfall 2, which is ill, yo. I didn't realize how ill that game got. They do some ill time travel shit. It's like I was not expecting all this in a Titanfall game, you know?
Oh, the TVA about to be on their head.
Yo, seriously, because that game is ill. So make sure you're following us on twitch.tv/forallnerds because we do a lot of different things on there. Shout out to Uncolored Page, who does some gaming. Shout out to Tatiana, who occasionally does some gaming. Yeah. Shout out to me, who occasionally does some DJing. And, you know, a lot of other stuff that we got going and coming. And just thank y'all, as always. We are so happy to be back doing views from the 616. Loki right now. Black Widow coming soon. What If in August. It's going down, you know. Thank you for being here.